Hello, how are you? So we're starting today. It's just a demo. We're making this trial. So welcome to the APTeam. APTeam. It was in AAP, now it's AP, and now it's APTeam. So it's a story. One day we're going to tell, but it's APTeam. So today, this is the first time we do this presentation. Today we're going to talk about an email that I just received, and I'm not much sure about what does it talk about. It was made by a friend of ours. His name is Edmund. So let's read it here. It's called, I plant my apple tree today, even though I know that the world will end tomorrow. I plant my apple tree today, so there's an apple tree, and you plant this apple tree today, even though I know that the world was going to end tomorrow. If the world's ending tomorrow, why am I planting my apple tree today, right? So analyze the philosophical literature for Protopolitan, while living in dark times, we know that our ideas will ultimately prevail, because these ideas. Well, this is interesting. Look, so while we live in the dark times, we know that our ideas will ultimately prevail, because these ideas facilitate the reestablishment of a world which makes authentic being possible. Yeah, so I understand from that even if we live in it's a dark moment in history. Unfortunately, we're not really having it's not really good. Unfortunately, that's why we're doing what people say. This is my office. I do sales. I work with sales for so many years, and for the past 2 years especially, it has been chaotic. It's been very difficult to do business. The rules, they don't seem to be connected, maybe not accurate to the times we're living. I think there's too much confusion. The payments process, they are way too complicated. It's like there's a million of versions of receiving a payment, but there's no money at the end. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It means I'm selling these headsets, but I'm talking more on a B2B and a business-to-business view. I work with corporate, so it's more business to business. So for small retail, it's more simple, but on a business world, it's like I have so many options of paying, but there's no payment. There's a new invention every day about how to make a payment, but there's no money. So there's no product, there's no money. So why to have 100 different options if there's no money and there's no product? You know what I'm saying? So this is one of the problems, but anyways, I don't think it's really good time, unfortunately, and I'm always smiling and selling something, but it's been 2 years that I'm really very frustrated, and I am turning to a pessimistic, which is very hard for myself, which at some point I think I'm not, because even if I'm such a pessimistic, now we're trying something new, which is let's go back here to where was the other screen? The APTeam. Flash it back at the APTeam. APTeam. Look, even moves. our sign. So let's go back to the text that Edmund sent to us today. What he says here, which I think is very good advice, means don't lose your hope, even if it's so bad out there. Don't lose your hope, because what's good is going to prevail. It's going to prevail on the basic principle, which means survival. On a world that everybody's stealing each other, everybody's defrauding each other, everybody's like lying to each other. It's about these scandals, these slanders, these defamations, these frauds everywhere. Big corporate companies that they're all frauds. You know, I think what he says here is that just keep the good. Don't give up on the good, because the good is the one that survives. Because the good is the one that lasts. So it's going to still be there, because there's just no way to survive without the good. That's what he says. So keep the word civilized, because other things are just going to be dissolved and disappear, but the good's going That's something that's really sad. We have not chosen our enemy, but our enemy has chosen us. That's sad, but sometimes that does happen. That does happen. I think sometimes it's the price you pay when you get too isolated. Because sometimes we tend to isolate ourselves, which means I'm a happy family, I have good friends, I have a good life myself, and then we tend to just get isolated, and then we just have in our life, in our bubble, everything's fine. And then we see something strange across the border, but we're like, you know what, I don't know, it's far away, let's skip. But at some point, you become a target without knowing. And so that's basically what I understand about, we have not chosen our enemy, but our enemy has chosen us. So now that our enemy has chosen us, what next? To let it go or counterattack, try to protect ourselves. There's all these conversations on the mainstream about building a wall and getting the borders reinforced and just stopping moves, closing the borders, stopping foreigners coming, no matter who they are. At some point, it's better just to stop everybody, because there's so much that to just pick up one or two, it's more complicated. I don't know. So, understand the world in which we live, and the forces can easily win the battle of political ideas in open debate, but our nefarious enemy will not readily permit the expression of these ideas in the public square. Well, this comes back also to the thing that we live in a new moment of darkness in history. It happened before. It was, as far as I was studying, was from 1300s to the 1500s. I think is the only time in history that was comparable to what we live in today. Those times lasted 200 years. Maybe this time is going to last time, because the words, it moves in such a high speed. Maybe now in 2019, that maybe it's not going to last for so long. But who knows? But this is what he says is that just give up the public square, the public media, the mainstream media. Just give up, because it's not a good reference. Somebody older, and I'm 43, so I do remember how times they used to be in the 90s. Maybe anybody who's maybe younger than me, I think I'm one of the youngest, but still in the old generation. I tend to have more things in common with somebody who's 100 years old than with somebody who's 36. Not on personality thing, but on some life experiences that I had access to as an adult. Because let's say when you start to have an adult life, when you start to understand life outside the childhood, I think it's when you were 14, and young teenagers, when you start to understand the city, the cars, the transportation, why schools in the morning, why work, those basics of adult life. So I think when I was 14, 15, it was the 90s, the early 90s, so I did live the full 90s and in the beginning of the 2000s, and life was still more connected to how life was in the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, so that's why I connect more with older. But usually on those years, everything public would be good. Not perfect, but would be good. Would be a newspaper, would be something very respectful. No, this is a TV show was going to be something very respectful. That means, I'm reading this new novel. This is on this newspaper, so it was written. Wow, it was there. Really, that means something serious. That means something that was written. It maybe took a few days to be prepared. There'll be a text that I have a few days. So I would, with the scissors, I would cut that, and I would take it to school the next day, and we would have a debate about what was on the news. I don't think that exists anymore. No matter if it's in the print paper or online or any sort of information, anybody, most of people don't even read it. They just have a glimpse, and they just dump it. And even online, so it's very hard to really find interest in reading a full text. And so what does that mean? What's out there in the public square? What's out there in the public life? What? I don't know. So usually you tend to end up in your own bubble, and then you end up closing yourself, but then the enemy shows up, and you are, so this is what he's saying. So we must therefore be as cunning as serpents. We shall not relent until our goals are attained. Yeah, so just yeah, that's okay. I'll follow that one. Let's put it on bigger. Put it on bigger here. Look what we must therefore be as cunning as serpents. We shall not relent until our goals are attained. Yeah, let's go. Let's go to good words of encouragement. Just adapt, and let's think. Serpents are very fast animals. They sneak everywhere. They know how to hide. They're very hard to catch. So that's a good example about how to survive now in these next years that will come. Let's see the next. Woe to him who has no friend, for his enemy will bring him up for trial. Woe to him who has no enemy, for I shall be his enemy on Judgment Day. I'm sorry, I'm not really that intelligent again. I'm sorry. Woe to him who has no friend, for his enemy will bring him up for trial. Woe to him who has no friend, for his enemy will bring him up for trial. Well, okay, this one I need to really, because I'm really stupid for poetry, and I'm a bit systematic and stupid on a lot of things. Do you know, he asked what future historian would regard as the most important event of the age? Well, what was it? It will not be Hitler and the Second World War. It will not be the release of nuclear energy. It will not be the means of communism. This negative seems very comprehensive. When the expression of supreme severity turned down the corners of his lips, it will be the abdication of the white man. Then nodded his head up and down several times to drive home his proposition. This seems to be something related to the Western civilization, because also that's the civilization we referred to when all these comments were making. They refer to Europe, okay? And Europe is the birth of the Western civilization. There are different names: white civilization, West. But Western means, I know that almost everybody knows this, but it's good to repeat so we explain ourselves. Western and Eastern, right? Before America was created or discovered, the entire world for Europe was considered from China to Europe. So China would be the East, Europe would be the West. For that reason, Europeans tend to refer to Europe and European civilization as the Western civilization, because that's an European slang to say European is Western, but that's a generic term that refers to anybody from Russia to Ireland, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Sweden. Because all these countries also, they have several different borders throughout history, so that's why every time I say Western, I understand that this comment comes from a Western point of view. It refers to the Western world. So when he mentions, what are the historians regard the most event of the age, he's talking about the European, the Western, the Western world. He's not mentioning Asia, he's not mentioning Africa, even America, because America and the Native American, they're in different times, okay? I travel all over the world, so I know they're even, I think in Thailand they're in the year 3,700. A lot of times they didn't even have contact with Europe, so they don't even know. So the word's very big, that's what I'm saying. And so this, as a Western text, he refers to the problems of recent history, whether it be the Second World War, communism, the future, even to the. But he says that the worst is going to be the abdication of the white man. What he means is going to be Europeans saying, "I'm giving up," seeming I don't care, and then probably going to be the end of the European civilization as people. The lands are always going to be there, the castles, the weather is always going to be there, but the people from Europe just abdicating and letting it go. And you see that because a lot of times, if you see in the past decades, the most high levels of suicides and a lot of things, they do come from Europe and Westerns and Europeans, so that's what they refer as a very negative thinking. We are afraid of the normality of the possible that I do not understand. I'm afraid of the enormity of the possible. We're afraid of the enormity of the possible. I'm afraid of something very big and possible. Yeah, sometimes the thing that you need to be more afraid of is that sometimes you can reach what you want. For example, in my case, I wanted to move to Ireland, and I reached it. I live in Ireland, and I'm a legal resident. My grandmother was from Ireland, and I had this idea of moving. I'm here, so I'm afraid. I don't know still if I was a great idea or not, but I got, that's an example. So a lot of times I want to be a doctor, and then you study, go to college, and you become a doctor, and then you're like 28, and you got this doctor degree, and you're like, oh, I made it, now I'm a doctor. So sometimes you must be afraid of what's possible to do, and it can be enormous, who knows. We are all navigators on an endless journey, and no book is more than a logbook. Me not understand, too complicated for my understanding. 10 discussion panels on great books, essays, seminar. Martin Hager. I'm reading this for the first time. I'm reading it with you, so I'm not, and I'm just glimpsing into. I'm not. It's a 17-page document, and William Foyle. Our friend is very intellectual. Understanding Islam, and that's the colonization of Europe, ethnic apocalypse, the coming European civil war. Refresh the political writer of Tilo Salazin from recent years, and on the relevant novels of Rosbell and Howlebeck. Okay, so these are the references. Collected political writing, John Coran and the Father Neil. The speeches of defense, Patrick Pierce, collected writings, a personal legacy, biography, very well proper, all written. We should mention some authors here: Abbott, New York 2010, Alinsky, New York 1980, Camus, 2014, Camus, Coran, authors: Cudahy, the Benoist, the Ministry, Tocqueville. Even S. Menger, fire, there's a lot of 5G, Fennel C, Fogarty, Haidt, Harold, Heidegger, Hoffman, Houellebecq, Ingham, Johnson, Lefebvre, Billing, MacDonald, Maximo, Martin, Berg, O'Connell, Burns, Schmitz, Weissman, Williams, Wolf. All views expressed are Margulier studies. Circle gatherings are solely the responsibility of their immediate spokespersons. They do not necessarily represent in any particular the views of the chief officers, administrators, or members of this political party. I do not want to mention right now. Okay, so this was the introduction. Enmard Clinical Study Circle. This introduction in this. So, Martin Clinical. I planted my apple tree today, even though I know that the world will end tomorrow. Okay, so there was no text. Let's go. Let me see again the email. First draft. Okay, so this was just Sonic joins this concert for Copenhagen. Oh, so this is something that's happening on October 12th in Copenhagen. Is Concept Forum is a return to the niche characters of an event. So it's an event that's happening in Copenhagen on October 12th. Dr. Tomislav. This is Dr. Tomislav. He is former professor for UC Santa Barbara and a former diplomat. He's the author of several books in English and French. In German, he's a LEGroup Occidental Observer. This is attorney, his name is Scansafoil, Greg Johnson, Mark Collins, William Walls, Fred Morger, founder, National Populism. Until these events, National Populism suggests the interest of the people, personal interest. Okay, so this is an event that's happening. It's about national populism, which suggests the interest of the people opposed to the interests and projects of financial, media, and political elites. Interest of the people. So while mass migration is mainly non-nation states, national populism, liberal. If you want to know more about our events, please watch our thing. Happy because we have two governments coming. 6th of October. I'm going to read. My first impression is I don't like the term when you say that financial, media, and political elites, they oppose national populism. I don't like those labels. I'm a non-label person, and every time we're trying to save time, I think my personal opinion, every time we're trying to save time all the time, and we're trying to create short names that kind of save us time so everybody knows something quick and you don't need really to focus on something. And